A female officer got attacked by a wild animal deep in the woods. Sheriff Sully called out over the radio, sounding a bit anxious, but there was no reply. When Sully and his team finally got there, the officer had already been turned into the beast's dinner. Sully looked at the huge claw marks on her car and figured it had to be an enormous grizzly bear that did it. So, lately, the town has been dealing with a lot of animal attacks happening quite often. Sully decided to send a team of skilled hunters into the mountains. He figured it was the best way to track down the beast and keep the townspeople safe by covering more ground. The hunters went their separate ways once they got into the forest. Michelle noticed some tracks on the ground and started to set up a bear trap. Out of nowhere, birds suddenly flew out of the trees, startled. Michelle could tell right away that something was off. She could feel the ground shaking under her hands. Feeling scared, she jumped up and glanced around. So, out of the blue, a huge grizzly bear just showed up right in front of her. During a tense moment, Rowan quickly fired off several shots, managing to scare the grizzly bear away, but still feeling anxious about the possibility of it coming back. He swiftly got Michelle back on her feet and guided her away from the spot. So, that night, the group gathered around a fire and got their camp all set up deep in the forest. Rowan started off the first shift to keep watch, but as the night dragged on, the temperature plummeted, and he found himself shivering from the cold. He looked around the dark woods, feeling like it was safe, and chose to head back to the tent. Little did he know the grizzly bear was still hanging around close by. So there they were, back in the tent, Rowan and his girlfriend Kaylee getting ready to call it a night. Just then, out of nowhere, a grizzly came crashing through the tent, grabbed Kaylee, and started dragging her outside. In a desperate moment, Rowan finally pulled Kaylee back to safety, stopping the sneak attack in its tracks. The grizzly bear hurriedly dashed into the woods. Rowan and Pike lifted their rifles and took shots at the beast, but their aim was way off, and the bear just slipped away without a hitch. This scary experience really showed that the bear was not only dangerous, but also pretty clever, maybe too clever for them to deal with on their own. As the sun began to rise, the group got their things together and got ready to head out of the forest right away. Little did they know the clever grizzly was quietly following them from the shadows. Fortunately, Pike, who was trailing behind, felt that something was amiss. He turned around and, to his surprise, there was the huge bear just behind him. Pike quickly pulled out his handgun and started firing while yelling for his friends to run. But up ahead, the trail ended at a cliffside waterfall. With the bear getting closer, they had no choice but to move forward carefully. Just then, the bear suddenly stood up on its hind legs and let out a furious roar. Startled, Kaylee looked back and slipped, tumbling down the slope. Unlucky Kaylee had a wooden spike stuck in her calf, and her friends hurried down the slope to help her. Rowan was shocked by what he saw, but he did his best to reassure Kaylee, telling her that everything would be all right. They ripped open her pant leg and got ready to remove the spike. Rowan took out a small knife and prepared to start the process. But just then, a thunderous bear roar echoed from behind them. They immediately realized the grizzly had caught up. Despite her injury, Kaylee didn't hesitate for a second. She told them to pull her leg off the spike right away. If they waited, the bear would catch all of them. Rowan hesitated for a moment, but he realized she was right. It was the only option. Gritting her teeth against the pain, Kaylee pulled her leg free. Rowan quickly wrapped her leg with strips of cloth to stem the bleeding, and the group jumped into action, helping her limp away as quickly as possible. By nightfall, they came across a little wooden cabin tucked away in the forest. As soon as they walked in, they were taken aback. The walls were covered with severed bear paws. It was obvious this place was a poacher's hideout, but it seemed the poacher hadn't escaped unscathed either. What was left of him had been gnawed down to bare bones. Out in the backyard, there were piles of black bear carcasses stacked up. Only then did the group finally get the truth behind the recent animal attacks. The grizzly wasn't just hunting, it was out for revenge. Just as the group was getting ready to settle in for the night, a loud gunshot and a bear's roar rang out in the distance. Rowan and Pike quickly dashed toward the noise. When they got there, all they found were some blood-stained clothes on the ground and a pair of broken glasses. Pike saw them right away. They were from an old hunter in their town. It was obvious he hadn't made it. When they got back to the camp, everyone was on the same page. There was no point in resting anymore. Getting out of the forest was their main focus, but with Kaylee's injury, Rowan had to make a tough call. He decided to stay back and distract the grizzly. First, he smeared the bloody bandage on his shirt, then set the shirt next to a dead tree to draw the grizzly in. Next, he stumbled upon a hidden spot nearby to wait for the bear to take the bait. Sure enough, the grizzly caught a whiff of blood and came charging in. Rowan raised his rifle and fired, but the shot missed its vital mark. Instead of taking down the bear, he just scared it off. So, when Rowan took off after it, he soon figured out that the bear had disappeared. That's when the panic kicked in. He turned and bolted, but the grizzly was right on his tail, catching up quickly. Just when it seemed like the grizzly was about to catch him, Rowan dove into a pile of dead wood, trying to hide. The bear's roar echoed through the forest, while the three who had run away thought Rowan was right behind them. They called out his name into the trees, but the grizzly caught wind of them and quickly turned around, now chasing after their voices. In a panic, the group dashed deeper into the woods. But then, thick fog started to roll in. Michelle and Pike, who was carrying Kaylee, ended up running in different directions. When Michelle finally turned around, she noticed that her friends were nowhere to be seen. She felt a wave of fear wash over her, and tears were just about to spill. She wanted to call out for them, but the thought of attracting the grizzly held her back. So she just stumbled through the forest, all alone and quiet. Just when the grizzly was about to pounce on Michelle, Pike showed up at last. He whipped out his handgun and took a shot at the beast, but unfortunately his aim was way off. He didn't hit a single shot. In that tense moment, the old hunter showed up out of nowhere. He lifted his rifle and took a shot at the grizzly, but the bear swiped at him with one huge paw, knocking him to the ground. Just like that, the old hunter was gone. So the three of them had to make a run for it and head deeper into the forest. They sprinted as fast as their legs could carry them, and before they knew it, they were finally out of the woods. So there they were by the riverbank, and out of nowhere they spotted an inflatable kayak. Just then, Sully popped out from the woods. He hadn't been able to get to them, so he decided to take the kayak to find them. When Pike asked him about the poachers, Sully unexpectedly aimed a gun at him. As the two squared off, the huge grizzly suddenly charged in, fiercely going after the frail old Sully. Pike quickly dashed over to the kayak to grab a weapon. So there was Rowan, who somehow made it through. Floating along with the current, Pike, in a rush, grabbed a couple of gas cans and headed straight for the bear. Rowan yelled at the grizzly to get its attention, but unfortunately, Sully still ended up getting attacked by the bear. Seizing the moment, Pike splashed gasoline all around the grizzly and then shot off a flare to set it ablaze. As the flames surrounded the bear, the group jumped at the opportunity to hop on the boat and get ready to make their escape. So there was this furious bear that just charged right through the flames, going after them. With one powerful swipe, it sent them flying off the boat and then focused on poor Kaylee, who was hurt. In that crucial moment, Pike finally picked up a dropped axe. With a mix of curiosity and adrenaline, he charged at the bear and swung the axe with all his might. The grizzly let out a howl of pain and swatted Pike away. Now, even angrier, it shifted its focus to Rowan. In the heat of the moment, Rowan spotted a hunting knife lying on the ground. He didn't hesitate and drove the knife into the bear's carotid artery. Finally, the grizzly was brought down. Pike rushed to help the injured Rowan to his feet. After facing so many dangers, the group had managed to escape the bear's grasp, and now they could finally head home safely.